Are the days of students sitting in rows of desks facing the blackboard numbered? Today's kids are immersed in a world of social media and new technologies, and it's impacting the way they want to learn. With that in mind, we'll discuss the virtues of standardized testing and a new real-world approach that incorporates social media with meaningful hands-on projects on Newsmakers. Today on a special edition of Newsmakers, Get Your Diploma, Get Your Dream, we'll discuss changing the way students learn and how that could reduce the dropout rate. WGVU has received one of 61 grants awarded nationwide by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to raise awareness about the high school dropout crisis, which exceeds 50% in some local areas. WGVU's local project, Get Your Diploma, Get Your Dream, is part of American Graduate, Let's Make It Happen, a public media initiative made possible by the CPB. We're partnering with leaders from the education and corporate communities in West Michigan and tapping into the real-world experiences of teachers, parents, and students, discussing the causes, effects, and potential solutions. Joining me now at this roundtable discussion, we have Ron Kaler, who's superintendent at Kent Intermediate School District. Thank you for joining us. And a parent whose son, Walter, is in the Innovation High School through Kent ISD. Katie Felver, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Bill Smith, you are also an assistant superintendent with Kent ISD. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is an interesting solution to a problem that has haunted this country for decades. And I have had a chance to watch the videos produced by students, basically telling educators, hey, we don't learn the way we used to. This is a new generation, a new way of thinking, and you've all grasped that. And you are now have the blueprint in place, started this fall. Bill, you were a part of this. Explain the essence of Innovation High School.
Well, Kent Innovation High School is the product of 20 local districts in Kent County that have focused on trying to find a way to reach learners of today and being able to prepare them for tomorrow. And we have found through research, we've found through the opportunities that are available to us in technology, that we can bridge that gap through project-based learning. We've found that in the research and the data, that if you can engage kids through teamwork, relevant projects, rigorous introduction of skill sets that are in the 21st century workplace, those students will engage and achieve. And that's what Kent Innovation High is focused on doing.
And Katie, your son Walter, 14 years old, freshman there.
Yep.
You love this.
I love it. I was explaining earlier, he comes home at the end of the day and, hey Walt, how was your day today? It was great. It didn't used to be that way. What do you like about it? Oh, we get together as a group, and he's in a couple different groups. They're learning things about they're learning things that are intangible. They don't even know that they're learning. They're learning how to communicate with their peers. They're learning how to communicate with teachers. These are skills that they're going to take forward with them in their years to come, into college, into their work careers. It's awesome.
Ron, give me an example of a day in the life of a student there, and how that mix works and fits into the world that today's student lives in.
Our students work in teams of 4 on a real-world project with the teacher as a facilitator. Instead of the teacher being the font of all knowledge, the teacher facilitates their learning. And so each student has a contract between them with each other and what role they're going to play in that real-world project and what outcome they expect. And so they have that agreement with the teacher. And they start working on these projects with, here's what we know about the project, and here's what we need to know in order to be able to complete that. And then they go about their business doing just-in-time learning, which is exactly how we work in the real world. You know, I would like to read Stephen Hawking or have the time to read some of his theories, but I'm not going to read them now and hope that I might use them someday, because my work is around real-world problems, and I delve into the learning I need to know to solve those problems today, which is what our students are doing.
And this is what the students told you, right? They're saying, look, I don't want to just stare straight ahead at the teacher, you know, standing next to the blackboard. They have all the social media these days. They have all the new technologies. That's how they learn. That's how they function.
Right. And really what we have to do in education is understand that in yesteryear, if we taught them everything that we knew as an educator, then we felt like they'd be okay. The world has completely changed now. We can't just focus on teaching them what they need to know. We have to teach them how to apply that. We have to move from the what to the how. And the best way to do that is to link them to the relevance of what they're doing and how it's relevant to where they're going in the real world. It takes a unique facilitator in education to do that. It takes the ability to work in teams to do that. It takes the ability of technology to be able to engage them in global learning. Our kids can connect with Chile if they want. Our kids can connect with China. We can do any of the things that you can do in any global type marketplace. We can replicate that in the classroom. Our classroom's not defined by four walls anymore.
But other students in those four walls at other schools also have computers. They also have technologies at their fingertips. So how does that make it so different?
I think what I've observed is they're empowered. And when you take a teenager and you empower them to direct their day, to say, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to approach it, I know ultimately what the goal is, they're going to rise to the occasion. And I don't think it matters what background they come from. You know, kids are argumentative, you know, by nature, and all of a sudden they're decision makers, and they are thriving in that environment.
But what does this do to standardized testing? I mean, that is the world that educators also live in. That's the box that those teachers are living in. They're more technician than creative teacher.
You know, we surveyed, this is program is about the American Graduation Project, and we were fortunate enough a few years back to receive a grant from the Mott Foundation for a dropout project, and we chose to survey students directly about their experiences in school. We surveyed 17,355 high school students, and what became very clear in their responses was that they didn't understand the relevance of what they're learning. They couldn't understand how they were going to apply that in the future. And you got a picture of young people who, in a system driven by increasing rigor, more standardized testing, that they believed that system was about the adults, not about them. That it was about, they pretty quickly understand that the MEP tests really are about that building and about that teacher. It isn't anything about me. It doesn't relate to what to help me. It helps that system, and that system isn't necessarily about me.
But it's important for the teacher too, because teachers are creative people inherently, and standardized testing, it does some damage as well, because they're just a facilitator of a bigger system, whereas you're turning this on its head by giving that power back to the teacher. I mean, how important is that? And can those teachers still meet those standards that are required?
I think when Bill's the expert on this, but there's no doubt that when the students are engaged as Walter is, and they have this thirst for knowledge, they're going to accomplish the standards that are put in front of them. But they're going to do it in a quite different way than being taught to a test.
Is that what you find at home, that
Absolutely.
very lackluster?
What do you mean?
When Walter would come home, you said that there are two different students that you're seeing right now.
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, when they know there's objectives, there's standards they have to meet, and our facilitators are going to ensure that each project that they're leading, that the standards are going to be met within those projects. So all of a sudden, because it's more hands-on, you touch and you feel and you can relate, it sinks in, it stays with you more.
You said there are other skills that are being learned as well. We were in the green room. You had mentioned some soft skills that your son is also learning.
As I work for a technology company in Grand Rapids, and I would say one of the things that shines about the employees at our company are the soft skills. It's the communication skills, it's the confidence skills, it's really knowing how to communicate with each other, how to communicate up the chain, how do you communicate to the leadership team at the organization, how do you communicate with your customers, get them to understand what it is that you have to offer, we're problem solving in their environments every day. These are skills that these kids are going to learn. It doesn't matter what their job is going to be down the road. Those are skills that they're going to take with them. And even in personal relationships, how do you communicate with people, your friends, your peers?
Is that one way to gauge a success?
Well, I think it's truly the way to engage success. The essence is take a step back. What is education about? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to pass a test, or are we trying to create innovative global thinkers that can compete in a world marketplace? Is that what we're trying to do? And if that's the case, then let's go about it and get to that journey. I think that all schools need to be accountable. And I think that all students and teachers need to be accountable. But that is a journey. And I truly believe, and the research shows this, that students that are involved in a new tech philosophy or a Kent Innovation High School, they can compete with their counterparts who are not on those same standardized tests. Because not only do they learn the standards, but they learn how to apply them. It'd be like if we're going to start our quarterback based on how well they can write about the theories of throwing a football. That's not who we start at quarterback. We start at the person at quarterback who can throw the football. And in education, we want people to be able to pass those tests. And we know that if they can pass the test, that's a good thing. But it's a great thing if they can pass the test and apply the skill. And that's what Kent Innovation High does.
Let me tell you what one of the experts says about that. A Dr. Young Zhao, who is an instructor both at the Michigan State University School of Education and the Arizona State University School of Education, two of the top education institutions in the nation. And he came to this country from China. And he has said to anybody who will listen that our focus on standardized testing, as the rest of the world is focused on standardized testing, as China, as some other countries, is really a race to the bottom. And he has told, as he analyzed our system, he said that really, creativity, as Bill has said, is what we are all after. And he's concluded that the only reason we remain ahead of those other nations is that we're less effective at beating the creativity out of our children.
And you're seeing that because in these programs, you're seeing a more well-rounded student. But can they still test well on a standardized test? Do you take a curriculum that's well-rounded, looking at the test that needs to be met? I mean, is that part of it? Okay, here's a project we're going to work on over here. You're going to find a different way to reach those results. Is that the idea?
Every project at Kent Innovation High incorporates all of the standards that would be introduced, taught, drilled and assessed in any local high school, any high school in the state of Michigan, because we're on a common curriculum. So every one of those standards are integrated. The difference is that we approach it differently. We will integrate classrooms together. Language arts and social studies will work together to create a project that encompasses both standards. And in the process of encountering those standards through solving global problems or local problems or experiencing the challenges of working through a solution that's yet to be known, that's how they learn it. And once they've learned it, it's not a learn, test, fill in the bubble, forget. It's a learn because I've applied that skill somewhere. And if the test is worth its rigor, then it will assess that they've learned that. And that's what other districts have found that have utilized this kind of model, that those students that are part of a new tech type model, a project-based learning, collaborative 21st century model, those students do as well or better on AP exams, the SAT, the ACT, That's one of the reasons why Kent, the KISA, the Superintendent Association in Kent County, chose New Tech as a model to build this school, because there was a history, a legacy of success that those students, when exposed to these standardized tests, not only do well, but they excel on them and go beyond, because they have the application experience that makes that learning relevant. And that's what the research tells us. That's what our kids have told us. That's why we're so excited about what we have.
And Ron, it sounds like you're talking about that the arts have to be a part of those projects too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the exciting thing about this for all of your viewers is that our superintendents came together to say, you know what, we have high standards that we have to meet, but we know that we have to do a better job of preparing kids and engaging them. And so they came together to work on this project for Innovation High. But the excellent education that Walter is receiving at Innovation High is hopefully a byproduct of the end result. And the end result, the goal is to share those teaching practices and the ability to embed them in all of our high schools, in every high school across Kent ISD, so that all children, all young people begin to have this experience, not just the 400 or so that we'll have when the Innovation High is totally built out.
Is it fair to assume that there could be some battle lines drawn at some point, that you're going to have a collision of those who support standardized testing and this more liberal, practical way of learning butting heads at some point? Do you see that coming down the road?
I think there
One will win out at some point.
Well, you know, I look at it a little different. I think there needs to be some understanding. I don't think that you can say that this standardized testing push also encompasses a standardized approach to instruction. I think that that's where the room is. I don't think any educator would like to avoid accountability. I think that we all want to know whether or not we're doing a good job for our kids. And that accountability has to come in some form. And right now, that form is a standardized assessment. And in that journey, as long as standardized testing doesn't mean standardized instruction, that every kid has to learn the same way, then we don't have a problem. I mean, that's not an issue. It's whatever the best way to get kids to that point and over that hurdle, because that's not the end point, that's just a hurdle along the way. It's not the finish line. The finish line is passing that test, but also being able to have the skills to apply what I've learned. And many people have targeted the standardized test as the finish line, and that's not where we're going in education. We know that hurdle's in the way, and we need to overcome that. We need to teach our kids to be able to get through that successfully. But we also need to know and help them know and help everyone know that the finish line is a productive global citizen that can compete in a market that you and I have never had to compete in, that has technology resources that can recreate what happens every day. Within 24 hours, the world has changed. And we have to be able to adapt, and kids have to adapt to it.
You've all done your research here. When you take a look at that global community, are there countries that have this model and that have proven that it's working very well? You'd mentioned other countries are standardized, but are there those models already out there that are showing successes?
#1 country in the world typically on the international PISA test, the Program of International Student Assessment, is Finland. And in Finland, their education reform, which they launched in the 70s, was to let's make teaching the most prized profession in our economy. Let's have only the best and the brightest in teaching. And then after we give them the skills to engage young people, let's put them in the classroom and determine how best to accomplish the goals. And really, this is sort of what we're talking about. They're not using more schools of choice or charters or different constructs like that to accomplish the goal. So this isn't being done in a vacuum. This is taking a look at what's working elsewhere and deciding how we can best engage our young people.
But is that the American way? That's one of those questions that a lot of people would have. But if you could turn that on its head and say, but we're the innovators of the world.
Well,
we try new things.
I would say to you that if you explore the growing innovation economy, where businesses are looking inside themselves to determine what obstacles inhibit or reduce the ability for their employees to be innovative. The United States is the leader in that national piece or global piece of people seeking us out for innovation. And we do that in spite of the challenges we face with standardized testing and so forth, that one size fits all because we're going to get through one little keyhole. The point being that we can't lose along the process our ability to create and produce innovative thinkers, problem solvers, and what better way than to market that and showcase that opportunity every day in school. You get what you drill for. The results are usually a product of what you're trying to achieve, and here it is. I mean, we are trying to grow excellence in innovative thinking and creative problem solving, and in the process, you're going to pass a test.
And Katie, you're the controller of a growing technology company.
I am.
And isn't what you're looking for creative problem solvers?
All day long. You know, the technologists that we're hiring today, especially some of the new people that have recently onboarded that are coming out of colleges right now, they are so bright and they are just forging ahead, and you know, we're putting them out at a client site and they are, without having that breadth of background and that knowledge and that experience, they're thinking, they're problem solving, they're creating, you know, innovation at our client sites. The feedback is positive, it's real, it's tangible.
And how does that motivation, and I know you were talking about maybe changing the pay scale for teachers, which, you know, you can start there. We can talk about early childhood development, and all those things would factor into a better workforce, which is what you're saying. You're seeing that. Dropout rate, getting students motivated again. How will changing the model, if this sweeps the nation, if you have great successes here in Kent County, how will that then translate to the struggling student, the student that has those issues at home, to keep them up to speed and stay motivated and interested in learning?
Well, the key, no matter what you feel about education as a student, you deal with it as a personal level first. Am I engaged? Do people care about me? And in Kent Innovation High, in this model, you know people care about you. It's a smaller learning community style of school. There's 100 students in the cohort. That's replicable in any district. The teachers are facilitators, so they get to know the student first before they have to share with them the content rigor. So there's this personal touch. They work in collaborative teams where they have to break down these barriers of, I don't know you, I'm going to work in my little shell. They're not allowed to do that. They have to open up. They have to interact. And with that process alone, any learner can be engaged. It's the relationship piece surrounded by relevant learning which allows you to elevate the rigor. And that's the key to success in education. We can't have every kid succeed at a very high bar if they don't feel like the learning is relevant. They'll disengage. If they don't feel like they're surrounded in a relationship-rich world. And that's why this model is important for any district to be able to be part of. And the key point that we haven't really mentioned here is this school wasn't built just to serve 100 kids. It was built to serve the entire county and lead. Because what happens in this school is it's a lab school. We bring in local teachers from all different districts here to be able to experience what the best and brightest aspects of this program is and how they can replicate those pieces in their own classroom. Whether it be, you know, building wide or just that classroom or that hour of the day. How can I do what they do well in my class? And through that energy that pushes forward, that's how we think we're going to make a difference for kids.
And you know, I'd like to tag on that a little bit. I have another son who's an 8th grader, and his school recently came in and toured Kent Innovation, and the buzz is talking. You know, what's going on at our school? How can we utilize this type of thinking? You know, and we talk a lot about the students, but as a parent, I'm also interested in what's going on with the teachers. You know, are teachers going to be more motivated to think outside the box and bring the curriculum in a different manner to the students if all of a sudden they get to have a little bit more flexibility in their day and how they think? And I think you see that with the teachers, the facilitators at Kent Innovation. They are up there and they are so excited because all of a sudden they're empowered they're doing something different.
Is it word of mouth? Is that what you're hoping for too, that it gets the interest?
Well, it's that, and it's also, you know, when you talk about the teachers, they actually have a greater connection to the real world too through these business projects and their business partners that they didn't have before. You know, we've often talked about teachers who work in a building as being 300 independent contractors who share a parking lot. But these teachers are working together as a team just like the students are. And so when you talk about the motivation of the student, sometimes it's easy to let yourself down and stay home. It's not easy to let your team down and stay home. So you stay at it, you work at it.
Okay. Ron Kaler, your assistant superintendent at Kent ISD. And we also have Katie Felver, parent of a student at Kent Innovation High School. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Bill Smith, also an assistant superintendent at Kent ISD. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on this special edition of Newsmakers. We'll see you next week.